Hi everybody, Richard Seaton here, the Ninja Blogger, and this is a third of my Ninja guest interviews, which I'm doing on a regular fortnightly basis. And this week, very luckily, we've got Glenn Shepherd, the tech wizard from Internet Profits, who's going to tell us all about his take on blogging and how to attract traffic to your blog. I know he does this very well. I've watched his progress and successes over the many months I've known him, and many bloggers think very highly of Glenn, so I think you're going to get a lot of value from this. So perhaps you could start us off, Glenn, just to explain exactly how you would use a blog to attract people and start to build a relationship with them.
Yeah, well, my take on it is kind of exactly what you've said there in the way you've phrased that question, in that you've got to be thinking about attracting people and building relationships with people. And I think from my experience, what I've found from a lot of kind of wannabe bloggers is that they focus too much on the end goal, on the results. You know, they think, how do I get traffic? And I've got to have X number of visitors, X number of clicks, X number of subscribers, which is, of course, is important. But they're kind of missing out the lifeblood, as it were, of the blog. So my emphasis is always on attracting people. You've got to be, as a blogger, you've got to make your blog attractive. You've got to make yourself attractive, make yourself appealing, give people a reason. So at the end of the day, if you want people to stay on your blog and read what content you've got on your blog, give them a reason to do so. If you want people to subscribe to your mailing list, give them a reason to do so. If you want people to click on your banners and take you up on whatever offer you may have, give them a reason to do so. You might notice there's a pattern there. It's giving people a reason to act on whatever you want to do.
So how long would you continue with a particular theme or a particular direction? And if you weren't getting results, would you continue with it? Or is there a point, for example, if you put a free ebook on your blog to attract attention in a particular niche and you weren't getting results, would you remove that and put something new in there? Or would you just stick with it? And how would you do that? So that's a loaded question, by the way.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in the position, and I think this is one of the things that, again, you need to do with blogging is put yourself in the position of how other people would view it if they were visiting your blog. Now, if I was going to do that, I think probably what I would do, here's an example. Let's say I have my blog, I have content, I'm getting visitors, I'm getting people coming back, I'm getting people commenting and sharing and recommending. If they're doing all that stuff, but then they're not subscribing, they're not opting in to get like you said, the free ebook, I think you said, didn't you, Richard, about a particular
the 2-day traffic course, but yeah.
So, whatever. If you're getting everybody to do everything else that you want them to do, but they're not doing that one thing, then that would probably tell me that might need either rework. It might not be such a problem with the actual thing itself, but it could be the presentation. It could be something just as simple as the way you have phrased the opt-in form, or maybe you might want to think about giving people a bit of a prod, in your post, maybe do a post that's related to a particular thing you're giving away, and just remind people, say, look, here's a great thing that I think you might find really helpful and really interesting. Head over to my sidebar, click on my opt-in form, input your details, etc., etc. Sometimes people need just that little bit of a push. Now, after having done all that, if people still are responding to it, then maybe you might want to think about just split testing, try something else, and maybe even rotating your banner if you're able to do so. So your opt-in form, and something else might be more attractive. But I mean, it's one of those things. It could be a combination of things. It might not be any one thing. You might say, well, I'm not getting subscribers, and just say what you might automatically think that it's the offer that's at fault, but it could be part of a bigger picture. You know, if you're not getting quality targeted traffic, targeted visitors, if those visitors aren't engaging with you, if they're not spending any time on your blog, then it might not be the offer itself that's at fault, but part of a bigger problem. So it all boils down really to sort of just being aware of your visitors and the level of engagement that they're giving you. I think that's kind of the key aspect.
I know you're very big on engagement, and I've followed your blog for some time and seen how it there's a great theme and a great strand of continuity through everything you do, and everything relates to something else. And I know that's something I'm trying to learn on my blog, and to try and keep that strand of continuity going. I know you're big on that, so do tell us something about that.
Yeah, well, I actually had a thought about this the other day, and I'll let you into a little secret here. There's our iPro community group. I posted a question that I think you probably saw a few days ago, and I just wanted to get people's feedback on it. And what I'm going to mention now relates the answer that I'll give everybody in response to this question. But basically, the way I view a weblog, that's where the name blog comes from. So it needs to be a log, a journal, a diary, if you will. Now, where I think a lot of people go wrong is they think, and a lot of people are taught this, and I really hate the fact people are taught this. They'll say, "Oh, I have a blog," and you go to the blog, and it's just a series of curated articles or videos or whatever with absolutely no engagement, no evidence they have any care whatsoever about the visitors. And, that's not to say that you shouldn't use this approach, and that's not to say that particular strategy doesn't work or anything like that. It has its merits. But as far as I'm concerned, in the cold light of day, that's not a blog. That's, at best, a scrapbook. That's like saying, for example, I'm going to write a journal or a diary. Okay, what am I going to write about? Well, let's go to these newspapers and take all these clippings and put those in each page, for each day, the news for that day. Put these newspaper clippings in. I might reword it slightly. I might take a bit from here and a bit from there, put that on that page, and that's my diary. What that sort of nonsense.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen many so-called top bloggers who, I'm certainly not going to mention any names, but there's just a lovely list of thumbnails with the topic beside, and that's it. And underneath each one, 0 comment, 0 comment, 0 comment. And you think, why are they doing this? Obviously, nobody's interested. Isn't it time to wake up and maybe try something different?
Yeah. And I think for me, you see, there's obviously merit to that approach, as I say, because otherwise, people wouldn't do it. At least established, experienced people wouldn't do it. So I think that approach is when you hear people say, "Oh, it's a numbers game, and you've got to throw traffic at it, and so traffic's going to stick." All right, that might have merit, but personally, I would rather show a person and actually engage with them, encourage them to interact, and just show evidence that I actually care about the people who are visiting, and that should reflect, in my opinion, in your content, in the way that you respond to comments if they leave comments on your blog. You should do them the courtesy of, if they're a blogger, maybe visit their blogs, share their content on social media. Just interact with them. Remember that it's a person at the other end, and don't just view them as a number. And I would much rather have a blog of 10 regular visitors who are absolutely laser targeted and highly engaged than 1,000 people just coming through. And so I can look at like the footfall of my blog and say, "Oh, look at how many visitors I'm getting." But that's useless if those visitors aren't going to do anything.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's where people stumble. They focus too much on the numbers. And of course, as I said before, you have to bear these things in mind. The numbers are important. But to be obsessing over the numbers. I've got 1,000 visitors this week. I've got 2,000 visitors. Well, that makes absolutely that's not of any value if those visitors don't do anything.
Absolutely.
You might as well have 0 visitors. It's not kind of some badge of honor you're looking for. I've got X number of visitors and look how great my blog's doing. Well, if your blog's not resulting or generating any results in terms of, whatever it is that you're actually aiming for, then those visitors might as well be 0. So if you're going to have an actual blog, and when I say a blog, I'm talking about a blog. I'm not talking about some kind of virtual scrapbook or a load of curated content. If you're going to have a blog, it's got to reflect you. It's got to ooze you at the end of the day. You've got to put yourself into that blog, and people have got to see that. And if you do that, people will respond better, and you'll greatly increase the chances of that engagement. And I think, your branding needs to reflect that. But as I say, it's anything more kind of advanced with regards to branding, I'm probably not the person to ask, in all honesty.
But you are also an unannounced expert, because I remember you telling me a story once when you went to a seminar and some fella came up to you and said, "Hello, Glenn, how are you?" And you said, "I'm sorry, I don't know you." And he said, "No, but I've seen you on your blog and I recognize you from your blog." And that's kudos. That is real kudos. And that was such a strong lesson. I've never forgotten that, actually.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah, I've actually had that a few times. And that kind of really lends weight to exactly what I was saying before, that I obviously made an impact on those people who have done that. They've obviously felt compelled enough to stay there, first of all. They've then felt compelled enough to read through, to carry on reading through my content and maybe share my content, maybe subscribe or, whatever. And they've also felt compelled to come back. And I think really the large sort of contributing factor to that is the engagement. As you know yourself, Richard, that's something that I always do. I always respond to people. Well, I first of all invite people's comments. Whenever anybody leaves a comment, I always respond, unless I just happen to miss it. But sometimes that's happened. I'll check in my comments in my WordPress dashboard, and I'll see a comment that somebody's maybe left on an older post, and I've just kind of got lost in my feed, and then I'll realize, whoops, this person left a comment like 2 months ago or something, and I'll always respond and never ever leave a comment unresponded to.
Well, I think that's another lesson I took from you, actually, because you once said to me, every comment deserves a response. They've taken the trouble to read your blog and leave a comment, and you owe it to those people out of common decency and also for future reference to reply to it. So I've taken that. I'm actually very good at responding. Thanks to you for that.
Yeah, and I think it's when you look at any of the, what I would say, the top bloggers, and I don't put myself in that category at all, but you see,
some people do.
Well, that's up to them. But I'm not going to build myself up. But any of the top bloggers that I can think of, I see reams of comments, and it's an active place. The engagement is always of paramount importance. In all those blogs, and there's really a lesson to be learned from that when you can see, and this is something I always say, just to go off on a slight tangent. When people talk to me about blogging and they say, right, I've started a blog, I've tried it, I've tried this and this, I've done my own content, I've got a good offer to give away, I'm writing regularly, but I'm not getting the results that I'm wanting. Why is it? So what I always say with regards to that is, it's not always that you're doing anything wrong necessarily. What it can be is that you're not doing something right. So if you see the difference, it's not that you're necessarily making mistakes and that you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, but it could be that you're doing or that you're not doing something that you should be doing. And very often it's the engagement that's missing. It's the showing that personal interest in the visitor. And not only, and this again is one of the key sort of, should we say, ninja little tips, is not to do it just on your own blog, but to do it on other people's as well. engage with other bloggers on their blogs via social media or whatever it is. It's that engagement really is the lifeblood of a successful blog. And very often when people aren't getting the results, usually that's where they're falling short, is they're just not engaging with their audience.
Can I throw something in there, something I actually learned this last couple of weeks, which is very interesting? I've been doing what's called blog commenting or blog hopping, which I'm sure you're going to mention later. But I had a week away from it, and I didn't actually follow any of the blogs I'd been looking at. And my attendance figures went down from 300 a week to 100, just from not doing 5 comments a day. Just looking on the blogs, reading what people say and leaving appropriate comments. That was getting me 100 visitors a day. I don't know where they came from, but I can guess that they read that person's blog. They probably saw my name on there, had a look at what I'm doing, and some of them left a comment. But isn't that amazing? 100% difference just from 5 comments a day. What do you think?
I completely missed what you said. It just lagged. What you said.
Just for the benefit of Glenn, I will reiterate that. I'd been leaving 3 to 5 comments a day on blogs and on people's commented blogs, if you know what I mean, people who'd already commented. I was attaching to those. And I lost 100 to 200 visits a day just from not doing that for 1 week. I had a week off, went back, and my attendance on my blog, I know you were saying earlier that's not the primary importance, it's the engagement, but what a difference. 3 comments a day can make 100 visitors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's astounding, actually. That absolutely blew me away to see that in cold figures in the traffic stats.
Yeah, and that for a blogger, I would say, is one of the core sources of your targeted traffic. Now, if you want to get absolutely highly targeted traffic, that's the way to do it. And you see, what you'll find is that you'll get a combination of people. You'll get people who maybe are just starting out and who are wanting to get traffic, and they know that if they do exactly what you were saying about blog hopping, that's a way to get traffic. So they'll do that. And this is obviously where your engagement and your good quality content comes in, because no matter what the reason is for them coming, if they see that you're somebody who's knowledgeable, who's caring, who has good content, you'll be more inclined to stand out to them, and then they'll in turn be more inclined to share your content, recommend you, come back, and so on. Yeah. But you'll also get then people who, the actual blog owners, who will purely want to visit your blog as a token of gratitude, as like returning the favor sort of thing. So it's just by that one comment on one person's blog, that in itself can generate, it's almost like a web effect. It can generate so much traffic, and the traffic from that is always going to be targeted. And that's the real takeaway from that is they might have slightly different motivations. I mean, you've got the third type of person who might just be curious. If you've left a really good, comprehensive, valuable comment on somebody else's blog, and you have shown that you've really cared about what it is that you're writing, you're going to stand out in that comment thread against all the 1, 2, 3 sentence comments. And if you've left almost a blog post in itself in that comment, people are going to notice that, and they'll think, wow, this person either A, knows what they're talking about, B, writes interesting stuff, and they'll feel inclined, just out of curiosity, if nothing else, to come and check you out on your own blog. They'll think, well, what else has this person got to say? Maybe maybe it's somebody who's just starting out and they're looking for somebody to help them and to give them tips, and they may think, well, this person clearly knows their stuff. I wonder if they've got things that I could learn from. I wonder if they've got a coaching program. I wonder if they've got a video course or an ebook, or whatever. So you'll get those kind of 3 different types of people, all of whom are targeted. And that is what you're aiming for with your traffic. You want to get the highest quality traffic that you possibly can.
It's you're pulling rather than pushing. You're actually attracting people to you. the targeting is coming from people making the choice rather than from you going out to them, which is what I love about the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I'm sure you've heard me say time and time again, I purposefully don't use the term very much driving traffic, whether it be with regards to blogging or any aspect of marketing. I mean, when you say driving traffic, people know what you mean. And I do sometimes use that, but generally I shy away from using that because I don't like the idea of viewing people as kind of just hordes of like crowds of people and numbers that you've got to drive like cattle. I don't like that concept. And that's not necessarily what people mean when they talk about driving traffic, but I just think that the mentality behind that, you could have a tendency to kind of distance yourself from the fact.
Gives them the idea of driving sheep into a pen, and that's really not what we're doing.
Real people. Those not. So I prefer to think of bringing traffic. I actually wrote a blog post about this a couple of years ago, talking about contrasting between cows and cats. Cows can be driven. You can drive cows, cattle into wherever you want them. But try getting a cat to do that, it's going to be very unsuccessful. A cat, you have to attract it. A cat has to want to come. You have to engage with that creature and build up some kind of a relationship. And the cat will either come or it won't. It'll want to or it won't. And I think that's really what you need to be mindful of when thinking about how to get your traffic to your blog or to any offer or whatever it is that you're doing with your marketing. Think of attracting people.
One man and his dog. Right. Please, I'm sure you've got some notes that you took. We're lagging again.
So you got thinking how best, as I said at the beginning, how to make yourself attractive, how to make yourself appealing, so that then people, you're in essence you're doing a lot less work really, because if you're concentrating on making your blog the best it can be, making yourself the best blogger or the best marketer or whatever that you can be, then a lot of the convincing people to check you out is already done for you. People will actually decide for themselves to check you out. And the other powerful thing with that, it's an important psychological thing to bear in mind, is that when somebody makes a discovery for themselves, it's going to be much more likely to have a greater impact on them. So, for example, I could say to you, check out this great blogger, they're really good. And you might check them out and you might agree with me. But how much more likely are you more likely is that person to going to really make an impact on you if you'd have discovered that for yourself? If you've come across somebody yourself and have made a discovery for yourself, or a teaching point, I could say to you a particular teaching point with regards to an aspect of marketing. And you might say, oh, yes, I see that, and that's really good. But if you've discovered it for yourself, you've had that aha, that light bulb moment for yourself, how much more of an impact does it make? So exactly the same with traffic. If people can discover you on the basis of your own merit and they have discovered you on their own observations, they're much more likely to remember. You're going to be much more likely to make a much more profound impact to them. Again, as I say, that's why you need to be mindful of the way you present yourself on your blog, and not only on your blog, but just generally in social media, on other people's blogs and forums or whatever. Basically, everything that you do, you've got to be people-oriented, people-focused.
Well, something that's come to me quite recently is to remind myself which blogs I get pulled to look at every day and which posts appeal to me and that I remember, and then simply reverse the process.
Yeah, absolutely. That's again a very good teaching method for yourselves is to kind of reverse engineer it, if you like. Ask yourself, what is it about this person that appeals to me? What is it about this particular post that appeals to me? Why have I felt that I wanted to comment on this? Why do I feel that I want to recommend this person to my followers, and so on?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
often
definitely.
subscribe to people's offers on their blogs, not because particularly, I'll be honest with you, I want to do anything about it. I just want to see why I'm subscribing. What is it that's drawn me in, and what are they asking me to look at? And then, if it's obviously working for them, so that's it's a very good way to learn, isn't it? I do have some questions, but if you have plenty of things you want to say, please carry on. I'm enjoying this very much.
No, I'm quite happy to answer a question. I think we've just got a question in the sidebar there, actually.
There you go. What's the most important lesson you learned about being a blogger?
The most important lesson I learned.
That's exactly the problem. The lag lost us most of what you were saying in answer to that question. So I'll shut up. Perhaps you could answer it. Shall I turn mine off or something? Would that make a difference?
No, I don't think it's going to make that much difference, to be honest.
Bank holiday lag, yeah.
Possibly.
So the question again was, what did you learn about being a blogger? What's the most important?
Yeah, it's basically what I've just been saying about engagement, the importance of being engaging with your audience, to be treating those blog visitors as real people, to be treating that when you see those traffic numbers, remember that they're real people. Be thinking about how you can best engage with them. That is of absolute paramount importance. And for me, I think I've always been slightly geared towards that anyway, because that's just the way I am. But that was kind of originally the light bulb moments when I thought to myself, what is it that I really need to focus on? What is the kind of the thing that needs to be at the core of my blogging strategy? It was that. It was that I should never sort of slip into trying to drive the traffic, trying to be focusing on the traffic numbers, focusing on subscribers, focusing on how many sales I might want to get, how many clicks I might want to get on banners and this type of thing. If you focus on being the best that you can be, if you focus on that engagement and that care for the people who are visiting your blog, the rest of that stuff that you're looking for will, providing you have the infrastructure all set up correctly, everything else will follow. And that was the light bulb.
There's a follow-on question from Christopher there, if you want to carry on with that. How did you know that blogging was right for you? Thanks for engaging, Christopher.
For me, as I say, it was something that, because of my personality, I think it's one of those things that, like anything, some people kind of take to it a lot more readily than others. So there was that aspect for me that I've always been somebody who's been quite sort of, what's the word? I've always been good with writing, so blogging kind of came naturally to me. The other thing is, blogging is so versatile. So for somebody who had, when I first got started, I had absolutely no experience with actually blogging on the internet. It was brand new to me. I had no experience of marketing or anything like that and selling through the internet. I mean, I dabbled in trying different things, trying to make money online like so many people have done over a number of years, got nowhere. But the beauty of blogging is it gives you something through which you can provide content. You can provide your own experiences. You can share things with other people without needing to know an awful lot of stuff about, say marketing or selling or anything like that. Something pretty much anybody can do. If you can use a computer and you can get a blog up, anybody can do it. And I think for me, that's why, as I say, combined with the fact that I've always been good with writing anyway, that was something that told me that I could use that as kind of my core strategy upon which to build everything else.
You're very welcome at this point to type in your URL to your blog in case Christopher and anybody else wants to have a look at it, because I highly recommend it, actually. Yeah,
I can do. The irony is, my blog's actually had a lot of problems over the last couple of months.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, it's still usable. People can still get on.
Don't worry, mine's working if you do.
People can still look at it. If you leave a comment, it may not work. That's the only difficulty. I'm hoping to really blitz it today and see if I can get it working, but I've just not had the time to dedicate on sort of ironing out what the problem is.
I'll interject at this point and let anyone who's listening know that Glenn has another job. He's a technical wizard, we call him, in the group I'm involved with. He basically does regular webinars for people within our group about technical issues and technical software and how to put things out and how to use them. And so that takes a lot of time, plus many other things. I have a question.
Okay,
this is fairly basic. It's how do you tell the difference between bot traffic and real traffic?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I mean, bot traffic comes through so many different forms. If you're just looking at your stats, so for example, if you look at Google Analytics, it can be difficult to tell. So if you say, like, look at your stats for the previous day and you see that you've got X number of visitors, it can be difficult to tell which of those are real and which ones aren't. I mean, sometimes it can be an indicator to see the referral, where they've actually come from. If you can see the source where they've actually found out about the blog.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be other ways to tell that I don't know about. You know, it's not. That isn't my. I've got to be honest, isn't my forte. But that's how I would look at it. The other way, that's a bit more obvious, although having said that, is they're getting a lot more tricky. They're getting a lot more sneaky. Is that you get a lot of automated like bots leaving artificial comments. And it used to be very, very easy to spot. You know, they'd just say, great post, thanks so much, I look forward to reading more, or something like that. And a new blogger could be given for getting enthusiastic and excited that, oh, I'm getting somebody commenting on my blog, when really it's just, you know, some sort of automated bot. The way to tell that is when you see these short one sentence or couple of word comments, that's your first warning. Second thing, check their email address to see what type of email address it is, if it looks genuine or not. Again, that's not always something you can tell. It's not immediately obvious. And also look what they're linking to, because if they've put the website in the website field, if it's something like, say, if you have an internet marketing blog and their site that they're linking to is, I don't know, sexual pills or something to increase sex life, then it might not be something. They've started to try to be a lot more human in the way that they comment, and they'll scan through your blog and pick out your name. So they'll use your name first of all, and they'll also pick out keywords from either your blog or from that particular post, and then they'll structure it and they'll use like linguistic algorithms to come up with something that looks pretty genuine. I had
exactly that recently. So I mentioned the word Rolex in one of my posts, and I immediately got the guy contacting me on comments saying, what sort of Rolex are you looking for?
Well, the most sneaky I've had, I actually wrote a post about this, was I had it when I saw this comment, it just looked suspicious. I couldn't at first put my finger on it, exactly what it was that wasn't right about it. And I was sitting there looking at it and thought, this is flagging something in my mind. There's something not right about this post. And it was odd because they used my name. Their Gravatar had a picture. That's another indicator as well. That's not the be all and end all of it, because sometimes people don't have the Gravatar set up, so you can't automatically dismiss somebody for that. But usually a spam post doesn't have a Gravatar. But again, they've been getting more sneaky. This particular post had a Gravatar. And I just was looking through it. They used my name, had some very good points that they made in their comment. And I'm looking at it and I thought, this seems very familiar. So I read through sort of scanning up through my previous posts on that. Sorry, my previous comments on that post. And what I discovered, what this thing had done, is it had taken sections of comments from other people, existing comments, and spliced them and put them all together in this one post. So that's why, and obviously subconsciously, I latched onto it because I'd seen the comments or seen those sentences.
Another good reason, guys, for reading comments.
Previously, and so it was very almost overlooked it, but it was just that something kind of flagged up. So yeah, it's just things like that. You just have to watch out for anything that kind of isn't obvious that it's a real person.
Glenn, can I just say something here? We're having an awful lot of lagging trouble today. I would like to give you another, the opportunity to speak a little bit more. It seems that every time I ask a question, the lag kicks in. Maybe that's telling me something, I don't know. But shall we just have one more topic, which you're free to choose, and then we'll wind this up, I think, because I'm going to have to edit out all the dodgy bits anyway to make a decent replay from this. So are you okay just to come up with one of the topics that you had that we were going to discuss? I'm sorry to cut you short.
No, it's okay. I don't know what topic to think of now. Did we actually have anything written down?
The idea was to talk about traffic, blogging for free traffic, but we seem to have covered most of that. Well, not most of it, but we certainly addressed it.
Yeah.
I suppose I could start you off by letting you know about a comment I got from another blogger who you respect a lot, Ryan Biddulph, who recently said that he's starting to be quite ruthless with the people he responds to on his blog, because you set the goal, you set the standard, you set the height of the bar. And if you try and respond to every single insignificant comment you get, you're going to end up dropping the bar. I think I know what he means, but he's talking about valuable content, really, and time, the time that you have to spend.
Yeah. I mean, as you just said, Ryan is somebody that I have a lot of respect for, and talk with Ryan quite a bit on, through our blogs and email and social media and so on. And I understand Ryan's coming from, and this is one of those areas in which it's going to depend on the individual. Now, while I wouldn't go so far as to say I disagree, is his that Ryan's doing it. I appreciate Ryan's take on this, because Ryan has a very different approach to the way that he blogs. And again, it's not to say that he's wrong in the way that he does it. It's just different, and it suits him. And the thing with Ryan is he's very wordy in his blogs. His blog posts, he writes thousands of words, and he prides himself on that. And kudos to him for doing that. I think he's great. I would struggle, I think, to write blog posts to the length that he does, and to do them so often. So because of that, because he's so busy doing that, it takes him so long to do it. And then with everything else that he does, he writes a lot of ebooks, as I'm sure you know.
2 a day.
Which again is, it's ridiculous.
One every 2 days, that's right. 7,000 words every 2 days.
Exactly. It's absolutely crazy how many he churns out. I really admire him for that. And it's always good quality. It's not like rubbish. He's not just churning out things for the sake of it. It's good quality content that people can learn from.
Well, he's got nothing else to do except sit on the beach, let's be honest.
So I think with that's why, because that's his focus. That's where he's kind of really putting his energies. So he's finding that he needs to be kind of selective in when he replies to the comments on his blog. Now, I understand that and I appreciate that. And like, if I leave a comment on his blog, he may not reply. For me personally, I don't think I could do that. And again, as I say, that's a personal thing. I would have to make sure that I engage with my audience to the absolute best degree. So yeah,
I'm very glad you said that, actually, because I was getting to the point of wondering maybe I should start being selective with whom I comment upon, but I didn't feel right about it, so I'm carrying on the way I am.
Yeah, and that's it. If you don't feel right, and that's a reflection of you and how you are, and I think that needs to be an important factor in the way that you do things. Would I recommend? And again, as I say, this isn't at all critical of Ryan at all. Would I recommend that somebody use his approach? Possibly not. But that's my opinion. And as I say, it works for him. And with his way of doing things and his personality, it's absolutely fine. There are so many different factors that are involved. But personally, I would always recommend, wherever possible, you keep up that engagement, because that's the way that you build the know, like, and trust factor, or one of the ways you build the know, like, and trust factor. So, guys asked, talk about commenting. Do you use Disqus for comments or something else? Basically, the short answer is no. I don't use Disqus or anything else. I use the WordPress, the built-in WordPress commenting system, because it does the job perfectly well, and you don't need anything else. The disadvantage, in my opinion, of using anything like Disqus or what's the other one? Livefyre, I think is the other one, is that if you use something like that, you have to, your visitors, if they want to leave a comment, they have to then sign up for something else that maybe they didn't want to sign up for. So you're giving your potential commenters an extra hoop to jump through, when you already have an existing system that works perfectly well, does the job it needs to, and it does it adequately. The other disadvantage with Disqus is that your comments appear within the Disqus network completely. I forget exactly how it works, but some people have expressed concern at privacy issues with regards to they're happy for a comment to appear on a particular blog, but they don't particularly want it broadcasting like right throughout the network. So I mean, that may not be such a big issue for people who use it, but for me, the bottom line is I don't see why you should give your potential commenters any extra hoops to jump through. And the thing is, there are people who will refuse to comment. They will say, well, I don't want to sign up for Disqus or Livefyre or whatever it is, so therefore this blogger is going to lose out on a comment. Whereas I don't know of anybody who's going to refuse to use the inbuilt commenting system. They're not going to land on a blog and say, well, I'm not going to leave a comment here because it doesn't have Disqus. It only has the WordPress system.
There's a bit of feedback for you there, Glenn, as I'm sure you can see.
Yeah, spam comments. So long as you have your comments, well, if you have the first comment moderated, set to be moderated, your spam comments shouldn't be an issue. Use an anti-spam plugin such as what's it called? It's just escaped off the top of my head. With anti-spam plugin, that should get any automated things before they even get to you.
I think it's because Glenn hasn't got headphones on, but anyway.
I don't think it's that.
By the way, Guy, just to let you know, you are the second person who doesn't like Disqus, because I don't use it either, for very similar reasons to Glenn. I've had a lot of hassle with it, to be honest, so I don't.
I can understand why people use it, but without taking into account all the other aspects, just the thing that's the paramount issue for me is that you're giving or forcing your commenters, potential commenters, to have to use a third-party system in order to simply leave a comment on your blog that they may not wish to do. Some bloggers successfully use more than one thing. They use maybe Facebook comments and the WordPress comments, or Disqus and the WordPress comments, depending on how the blog's set up and the theming and so on. So yeah, if you can give people a choice of which one to use, that can sometimes work. But I would never recommend doing anything that segments your audience, that's going to when you know that there are going to be people who just aren't going to engage with you, who are just going to point blank refuse, then I think that needs to ring alarm bells. And the other problem with that is, if a person comes to a blog and sees that it's only Discuss enabled and they can't engage there, they might be less inclined to bother in future, because they don't feel that they can engage with the blog owner through the comments. So I certainly know of people who have expressed that when visiting blogs. You know, they've seen that Discuss or Livefire or whatever, Facebook, you know, etc., is the only commenting system. Is, well, I can't comment on that blog. You know, I'm not particularly bothered about visiting again.
Just in addition to that, I also get that feeling when I come onto a blog and I want to leave a comment, and I'm immediately shot over to Livefire or something. I do actually go, hassle time. Got to start thinking this out. You know,
the difference with Discuss is you have to, for the person to be able to find a link back to your blog. If you've left a comment on somebody else's blog, they have to go through the Discuss system in order to then find where your link is. Whereas on Comment Love, it links directly back to your blog, which again is putting an extra step in the way. Now, I suppose you could say there might be two schools of thought on that. You might argue that, well, if somebody's been determined enough to make that decision and take that step in looking for it, then they're going to be more committed and more inclined to go. But I think it's going to be more a case of people just won't bother. Certainly in my experience and people I've spoken to, I know a lot of people who have used Discuss and have ditched it because for those very reasons. So it is one of those things. I think it has its pluses and negatives.
Guy's just said he never heard a negative comment about Discuss until today. Are we both from Europe?
I've heard some negative points from Americans. Just to put that out there.
No, that's not the reason, Guy. It's nothing to do with that, honestly.
That's really lagging very badly. Then I didn't.
I'm just saying we're losing quite a lot of this due to lag. So maybe we should wind this up. We've lost about 10 or 12% of the conversation. I can edit it to make sense still, but shall we, if anybody's got any more questions, please put them in now. Otherwise, I think we'll probably ask Glenn to wind this down and then say goodbye. There you go. Privacy issues in the UK may be a part of our worry, but that's what Guy reckons it might be.
Yeah, no, it's, as I say, for me, it's just purely, there's no need to be putting extra hoops for people to jump through. You know, the more steps you give to people to do anything, whether it be blog commenting, whether it be subscribing, you know, buying, whatever it is that you want somebody to do, the more unnecessary hoops you put there to jump through, the more likely you go.
On that note, actually, I've been looking at Kim Willis quite closely recently. Now, he makes his blogs and all his offers so straightforward and so simple to use. I'm picking up a lot of good tips from him. He makes the avenue nice and straight without any bridges and bumps in the way. And I think that's a very healthy, simple way to run a blog. That's just an observation.
Yeah, and that linked to that, I would also say, I know we haven't really touched on this, but with regards to the layout of a blog as well, just nice and simple is best. So somebody can come and land on the blog, see the content, engage. No need to be made, because you will put people off and you will lose you're more likely to use, in my experience, more necessarily convoluted and complicated than you will by including something that's maybe fashionable or, you know, a particular, I don't know if you got that or if it lagged.
I'm afraid most of it lagged, but I know what you were saying. Keep it simple and keep it straightforward. But I really think we're fighting a losing battle here. The tide's coming in. Yeah. It's the lag tide. So with that said,
I've never seen that on Blab before.
No, it's very unusual. Maybe
maybe it doesn't like me.
Yeah. Are you running something in the background then?
No.
Thanks to everybody who visited, and particularly thanks to you, Glenn. Thank you for spending your sunny Sunday afternoon talking to me about blogging instead of being out there getting a tan.
Yes, well, it's clouding over a bit, but it's still pretty sunny, so...
Well, let's close this down now and see if we can get a few rays. No,
right.
We're not going to get the message out. Thank you, Glenn. Should we call it a day?
Yeah, that's fine, Richard. Thanks for
Thank you.
having me on.
The quality was brilliant, but unfortunately, I was the only one who heard most of it. So, thanks a lot, mate, and have a good day.
You too.
We'll be back here in a couple of weeks with another Ninja Guest blog, flab, whatever it is, and see you guys later. Thanks for joining, and you can always pick me up on imbusinessninja.com as well, and Glenn's address is glenshepherd.com.
Glen-shepherd.com.
Glen-shepherd.com.